Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, South Korea and the United States kick off their annual military drills, despite fierce protests by North Korea, as reunions of war-divided Korean families near an end. Seoul offers aid to stop the spread of foot-and-mouth disease in the north. Marking her first year in office, President Park will lay out the details of her pledged 3-year economic innovation plan in a live televised address on this Tuesday. Plus, after failed diplomacy to stop the so-called East Sea movement in the US state of Virginia, Japan releases an online video criticizing Korea's promotion of the Korean name for the body of water between the two countries. Daybreak begins now.
Thanks for joining us. To all our viewers here in Korea and around the world at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, February 25th here in Seoul. You're watching Daybreak and I'm Choi Yu-sun. It was the second day of a new round of reunions for families separated by the Korean War at North Korea's Mount Kumgang on Monday. This time, the event was arranged by North Korea with nearly 500 family members from both sides of the border taking part. Our Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
A truck full of suitcases arrive at the Mount Kumgang resort. These are the gifts that the South Korean divided family members have prepared for their families in the north. 3 pieces of luggage filled with daily necessities like clothes, canned foods, and underwear for a long-lost brother and his family is not enough for the family members who have been separated for more than 6 decades.
We prepared the gifts with the hope that they will be useful. We were clueless on what our brother needed.
The gifts are intended for family members that are over the age of 80, but cookies, candies, and chocolates are a must.
My son bought 2 bags of candies saying these are rare in North Korea. I wanted to bring more.
Following Monday's closed-door individual meetings, the atmosphere at the group luncheon picked up noticeably. A daughter cuts up a slice of cake for her elderly father, and 2 sisters happily feed each other spoonfuls of food. Toasts to the health and happiness of the families are heard at various tables. But sadness lingered, since the family members know that this meal will probably be their final chance to dine together. The families will hold a farewell meeting for an hour on Tuesday morning before they go their separate ways. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
There are an estimated 100,000 Korean American families in the U.S. with relatives in North Korea, but with reunions coming only sporadically and limited to hundreds at a time, many have been left wondering if they will ever get the chance to reunite. Hwang Ji-hye, who sat down with some of the separated families in Los Angeles, says there remains faint hope.
There was a ray of hope for 88-year-old Kim Bong-geun when the 2 Koreas agreed to proceed with reunions for families separated since the Korean War earlier this month. More than 60 years have passed since Kim last saw his sister, brother-in-law, and cousin, who was in kindergarten when he fled North Korea.
I missed him so much, I can still clearly remember my cousin's face. She used to follow me and hold my hand when I walked her to kindergarten.
His faint hope, however, quickly flickered out. Including Kim, an estimated 100,000 Korean-American families have ties to North Korea, but this time only 170 families from the 2 Koreas were allowed to meet their long-lost relatives. Many of the separated Korean-American families live in Southern California, which has the largest population of Koreans outside of the divided peninsula. For them, Cha Chang-jun, a member of the National Unification Advisory Council of Los Angeles, says there's not much hope for a reunion anytime soon.
There are hundreds of thousands of separated families in South Korea, and just for them to take a trip to the north to meet their families will take decades. I don't think people like me in the United States will have a chance.
Although Korean Americans are able to take a private trip to the north to meet their families using their U.S. citizenship, not many consider it a feasible option.
There are organizations that help Korean Americans visit North Korea to meet their families, but it costs a lot of money.
People in the Korean American community that have families in the north are hoping that the reunions led by the two Koreas take place on a regular basis and on a larger scale. Pyongyang, however, has a record of unilaterally calling off scheduled family reunions whenever it has a bone to pick with South Korea and the U.S.
I am now almost 90 years old. I don't have many days left. I really hope to see my family before I die.
Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News, Los Angeles.
Meanwhile, South Korea and the U.S. have kicked off their annual military exercises despite strong protests from North Korea. But this year's drills may be slightly toned down in a nod to the recent progress in inter-Korean relations. Our Kim Hyun-bin has this report.
Over 5,000 U.S. military personnel are taking part in this year's joint South Korea-U.S. military exercise, Key Resolve. Key Resolve, which runs from this Monday to March 6th, is a defensive computer-simulated drill that aims at enhanced command and control of all units around the nation in a wartime scenario.
As we said in our official announcement, Korea-U.S. will start its Key Resolve and full legal exercise as planned on February 24th.
For the first time, this year's exercise includes training to counter all stages from preparation to launch of Pyongyang's weapons of mass destruction as part of the Allies' deterrence strategy. 7,500 U.S. troops are taking part in a series of joint and combined field training exercises dubbed Full Eagle, which also start Monday and run through April 18th. Last year's exercises involved 10,000 U.S. troops. U.S. aircraft carriers and stealth bombers that were used in 2013 have been left out this time to avoid provoking North Korea. Pyongyang has remained comparatively quiet about this year's exercises, choosing to refrain from threatening to attack the South, as it has done in previous years. Keeping the steadily improving progress in the inter-Korean relations in mind, South Korea's military has said it will not heavily promote the drills, nor will it engage in any other acts that could anger its northern neighbor. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And amid the thawing inter-Korean relations, South Korea has offered aid to North Korea to help stop an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in pigs. If delivered, it would be Seoul's first government-led humanitarian help to Pyongyang since 2010. The South Unification Ministry on Monday proposed talks with North Korea to discuss the humanitarian assistance. The North State News Agency reported last week that the animal disease has infected roughly 3,200 pigs.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday President Park Geun-hye will unveil the details of her 3-year economic plan at the presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae later today as she marks the first anniversary of her inauguration. The plan is expected to contain a roadmap on how to strengthen the country's economic fundamentals, nurture a creative and innovative economy, and boost domestic demand. President Park says she wants to raise the country's growth potential to 4%, have a 70% employment rate, and an annual per capita income of around $40,000. President Park first revealed her plan at a New Year's press conference early last month. Her aides say the president's plan is the centerpiece of her economic policy. President Park has called for a more balanced economic structure to achieve our goals of creating more jobs and strengthening the economy. To that end, plans to nurture some 100,000 small and medium-sized export-driven businesses by 2017 were revealed on Monday. They came during status reports to the president by the Trade Ministry, the Small and Medium Business Administration, and the Agriculture Ministry. President Park stressed the importance of removing unnecessary regulations to boost the economy, saying they hold back creative young people from opening up businesses. She also called for securing more funds to foster more SMEs. A deadly building collapse in the southeastern city of Gyeongju last week horrified the nation. Reporting to Parliament Monday, the Land Ministry introduced measures to ensure such a tragedy never happens again. Kim Hyun-gil reports.
The Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport said his organization is doing all it can to ensure that incidents such as last week's roof collapse in Gyeongju will never happen again.
The ministry is doing all it can to prevent such accidents from happening again. We're reviewing building safety codes and revising the construction regulations for buildings with lightweight steel frames.
The collapse left 10 university students dead. The government said it will inspect more than 40 public institutions in the eastern part of Gangwon-do province, which had been hit with heavy snow in the days leading up to the collapse. The minister's comments were part of a briefing by top officials from the Land Ministry. At the National Assembly, lawmakers also got a briefing from the head of the agency overseeing a project to relocate government ministries and agencies to the new administrative city of Sejong.
The second phase of the relocation was successfully completed last December. This year will be the third and final phase in which more state agencies will move to Sejong City. We will do our best to bring about a smooth transition.
He said he expects the population to increase to 80,000 by the end of the year, from the current 30,000. The Land Ministry also said it will push to reduce the debt held by public corporations by roughly $11 billion this year and $22 billion by 2017. To do that, they plan to sell off the corporation's assets and reform lax management practices. Kim Hyun-gil, Arirang News.
In a move certain to draw fury from Korea and the rest of Asia, Japan is reportedly looking to revise its landmark apology for its wartime system of sex slavery. The Kyodo News Agency reports the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is mulling over revising the 1993 Kono Statement after his Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said that evidence given by women forced to work in Japan's military brothels will be re-examined. In another move sure to inflame tensions, Japan's foreign ministry posted a video on its website and on YouTube on Monday, criticizing Korea for causing, quote, unnecessary confusion by promoting the Korean name East Sea when referring to the body of water between Korea and Japan. The video says Sea of Japan has been the internationally established name for the body of water since the end of the 18th century. The ministry says it hopes to spread the, quote, correct understanding to the international community. The rise of state-of-art technology has benefited millions worldwide, but many developing countries have been left in the dark. But Korea's private and public sectors say they may have a solution by providing practical development support in the form of the so-called appropriate technology. Our Polly reports.
Here on the west coast of the Philippines, a group of Korean IT volunteers is helping to install solar panels for homes in the Ternate municipality. The goal is to help the community, which suffers from frequent blackouts, by establishing a steady supply of electricity.
For places where electricity is not very well supplied, this power generation through solar energy is not used together with the grid-connected lines. Therefore, it establishes an independent system.
However, there are other basic utilities that also lack infrastructure here. Many residents are forced to drink from contaminated springs due to the high cost of bottled water. To provide a sustainable solution, engineers from a leading Korean university have designed and donated a mechanical water purifier. Their project uses no electricity and can be easily carried to other locations to provide clean water.
It's not always just a problem about the quality of water, but by utilizing this provided water purifier, we're able to resolve other problems as well.
The methods used here are based on a principle called appropriate technology, which is tailored to the social and economic needs of each geographical region.
Since this field of appropriate technology is a good fit for this area, we've decided to offer to provide these goods and services. We're also preparing to provide higher capacity products in the future.
Korea intends to further expand its appropriate technology initiative to other developing countries, with plans to build large-scale water purifiers and solar-powered generators in Cambodia. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kwon So-ah with the latest news around the world. As Ukraine is busy appointing members for a complete interim government by Tuesday, Russia is questioning the legitimacy of the opposition and is continuing to denounce the ousting of their ally, President Viktor Yanukovych. Ukraine issued an arrest warrant for Yanukovych on Monday on charges of mass murder of citizens during protests. Russia's Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said Ukraine's interim authorities are the result of an armed mutiny. The U.S. continues to demand that Russia not intervene in Ukraine. In the meantime, the European Union is discussing financial support for the country as it's in need of an estimated $35 billion over the next 2 years. And over in Egypt, the country's Prime Minister Hassem Beblawi said he and his government will resign from his post in a televised address Monday. He did not give a reason for the move, but according to an official, the step was to emphasize that the cabinet backs Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's run for president. Top military chief al-Sisi, who is very popular and has no serious rivals, is soon expected to step down from his post and declare his candidacy for president. A presidential election is expected by mid-April. Residents that used to live within a 20-kilometer radius of Japan's crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant will soon be able to return home. An evacuation order that was issued soon after the 2011 nuclear disaster in the region is to be lifted by the Japanese government in April. The first 350 people will return on April 1st, and more than 30,000 people could follow in the near future. This move comes as the level of radiation contamination has lowered enough, but some still worry about existing radiation. The largest global mobile phone show, Barcelona's Mobile World Congress, kicked off on Monday, and over the next 4 days, 75,000 people are expected to attend. They'll be checking out the latest that the world of technology has to offer and will be joined by government leaders from 160 countries. New gadgets from HTC, Microsoft, and many others will be or have been unveiled, including Samsung's Galaxy S5 smartphone, which will be launched in 150 countries in April. The tales of ex-NBA player Dennis Rodman, whose regular visits to North Korea have been ridiculed by many, will be made into a motion picture. 20th Century Fox and director Tim Story will develop Rodman and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's friendship and the idea of the so-called basketball or hoops policy into a comedy movie.
And of course, with the Sochi Winter Games over with, we're back to our normal sports coverage as we kick things off with history being made over in the NBA, as Jason Collins of the Brooklyn Nets became the first openly gay pro athlete in the U.S. to play. Now, playing just 10 minutes and failing to score any points, the newly acquired big man was given a standing ovation in the 108-102 victory over the LA Lakers at the Staples Center. Despite not being able to sign with any teams during the offseason, he was given a 10-day contract to play for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Collins announced that he was gay in last April 29th and has been getting a tremendous support from the fans and athletes everywhere. And now shifting over to Euro 2016, where the group stage drawing was out without any group of death. Now, with the drawing taking place in Nice, France, all the top-seeded nations were spread around and don't seem to be challenged during the group stages. With 9 different groups being drawn, all the groups are evenly matched, as the toughest group seems to be in Group A, with the Netherlands, Czech Republic, and Turkey. Meanwhile, Euro 2016 is set to take place in France from June 10th to July 10th of 2016. And shifting gears to NASCAR, where Dale Earnhardt Jr., after all the waiting, has finally won the Daytona 500. But it didn't come easy for the sport's most popular driver. Now, having to wait 6 hours for the rain to stop at the Daytona International Speedway took him 10 years to win the second Daytona 500. Despite 42 lead changes and 4 multi-car accidents, it was Dale Jr. who came up on top after over 11 hours since the race first started. And finishing things off in baseball, where throughout the whole time we were following the Sochi Winter Games, Yoon Sung-min signed a 3-year deal with the Baltimore Orioles, becoming just the second player to go from the KBO to the major leagues. But big question is, will he be a starting pitcher? Well, according to the depth chart, the former Kia Tiger ace is currently listed in the bullpen and not in the starting rotation. But the manager of the Orioles, Buck Showalter, stated that if he can go under an ERA of 3.00 during spring training, then he'll be able to make the rotation. Meanwhile, the 3-year contract has a no minor league option in the last 2 years of the contract, but does have the option in his first year, as he might start off the season in AAA to get him warmed up for his major league career. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Si nos enseñan a hablar cosas majaderas.
Good morning. Well, we are waking up to foggy and dusty conditions this morning as the high level of toxic smoke continues to sweep the peninsula. In fact, ultra-fine dust advisory was issued for the first time in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do yesterday. So even if it feels like mid-March today, enjoying warmth during the day might not be a good idea. So other than Busan and Jeju, the rest of the country should suffer from high level of fine and ultra-fine dust particles. So we are advised to stay indoors and be sure to have a hwangsa mask ready before heading out. I mean, once you step out the door, you will notice how serious the air quality is, and the visibility in Incheon and Suwon is less than 100 meters this morning. So please drive with extra caution this morning. Now, the temperatures will stay on the mild side through the week, and it looks like we have nationwide showers in store on Wednesday afternoon. So hopefully that will clear out some of the dust in the air. With that, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The morning low in Seoul is at 1, but will get up to 12, while Daegu and Gwangju will top out at 15 and 16 respectively, and Busan will top out at 14 later in the day. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju and Daejeon will climb up to 14 and 13 respectively, and Mount Kumgang will soar to 2 later in the day. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Thank you for watching.